The weather wasn't the only thing that was erratic. Rutgers offense shines. Defense struggles a little bit again against another Ohio team in Miami of Ohio. Let's get to it. Okay, so Rutgers comes away with a 45-17 win over Miami of Ohio. A little more than I thought it might be. I think I said it would uh, be about a 27-16 kind of game. Nonetheless, we get our sixth 30-plus point game in a row. Break up those Scarlet Knights. We're not used to this. You know, Steve Politi from RutgersRyanNJ.com, his big takeaway is you enjoy this, have fun with it, because we've seen some pretty pathetic offenses. Yeah, okay, but you know what? Complementary football is a thing, and if you can move the ball like a Big 12 team but can't stop anybody, doesn't really do you much good. Um, And it's not just a matter of our personality like it was with basketball, right? We went from a grinded out defensive kind of basketball team. We flipped the switch and we absolutely stunk. But honestly, you know, once we stop playing in rack teams and get into the Big Ten, it's going to be a different story. That being said, we are what our record says we are. We are 2-0. Break up those Scarlet Knights. We actually got over 400 yards in this game. It happened late. Didn't look like we were going to get there. You know, it was one of those. So, you know, I was at an event in Cranberry, and I'm driving back up to New Brunswick. And, you know, it's kind of partly cloudy, overcast, and that. And I'm like, you know, I don't know what's going to happen here. The second, and I mean the second, I got to New Brunswick, you know, the skies opened up with buckets of water and wind. Yeah, you know, it was like we were expecting the Wicked Witch of the West to come flying by. It was you. I wouldn't have been shocked if I saw a tornado. You know, I was driving through, and right as I got through College Avenue campus, I had going by like Hardenberg Hall, had to pull over. A bunch of cars had to pull over. The wind, the rain was so heavy, it was like snow. You couldn't see in front of you. And a Rutgers bus like pulls into the intersection. I'm like, what are these guys? Why is he kind of like stopping and stuck there? And that's when the heavens opened up and the floodgates opened, and it's kind of crazy. And it was like, yeah, you know what? I love Rutgers football, but I don't know if I'm going to do this. So drove through New Brunswick, up 18. Things kind of subsided pretty quickly, you know, and the skies broke up a little bit of sunshine. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about this. So I started to drive towards 287 to head on home. And I was dialed into if the game was going to be delayed or not. I'm looking around to see if the game is broadcast. And to my chagrin and my annoyance, that this whole Peacock thing, where you can't watch a local Rutgers football game without paying for Peacock Plus Extra, whatever the hell it is, that kind of pisses me off. So I'm like, I can't even sit home in front of one of my big screens to watch this game in comfort, not being drenched by a severe thunderstorm. Saw that it was going to be a 4:30 start. I said, you know what? Let me get home. Got home, did a little bit of a change, got back to the stadium, and the weather gods cooperated, and I got to see a game that, I felt ambivalent about because I thought it was one of those games where Miami could get better against us offensively after their debacle against Wisconsin, gaining only 117 yards. I think Finn had like 56 yards passing. And I thought they would get better. Said on my last video they would get better. I didn't think they would be as productive as they were. I thought they would just be able to move the ball, get a couple scores maybe. Nonetheless, we get off to a good start. We stop Miami and Finn on the opening drive, and I thought, okay, this is good. We don't have to suffer any angst. No existential Rutgers angst here, having to watch a Miami of Ohio team with virtually an entire new team run up and down the field on us and make plays. We get the ball back and we come out throwing. And I like that aggressiveness. There are times you have to be conservative and times you have to be aggressive. And sometimes we just kind of mixed up those things. And our timing was not always good regarding play calling and play sequencing. But we come out throwing. I like that. We're aggressive. Coach has Shiano, and I guess Kirk Shiraka has a lot of confidence in Ethan in the offense. We spread the ball around to the three amigos. These guys had another big game, and we'll get to some of that in a little bit. And the initial drive culminates in a 14-yard touchdown to Ian. This is a different kind of Rutgers offense. Even when Ethan first came here, the expectation is, he's not an accurate quarterback. He's about 55, 53, whatever the percent was. Minnesota, of course, led the nation or near the top in drop passes, and having watched some film on him before he ever played a game with Rutgers, and I'm like, this is not a guy who just doesn't have the right throwing motion and can't make the pass. There must be something else going on because he looks okay, occasional overthrow, but he's no Gavin Wimsatt. Nonetheless, we get off to that really good first drive, albeit we get a sack. And more on the offensive line later on. Miami did have 3 sacks against Wisconsin, and Wisconsin is big boy football. But nonetheless, I love it. We're aggressive. We're throwing the ball. We have the guys, the weapons at wide receiver that we don't, when we drop back to pass, and this was the case a lot, even, with Gavin, it's like, we're going to complete it. Where's he going to go? Underthrown, throwing at his feet. What's going to happen here? We don't worry about that anymore. The ball is generally going to get there, be on target, and these guys generally will make plays, even though we still have had a few drops. But then we get the ball back to Miami of Ohio for their second possession. And of course, we give up a 62-yard pass play to Cam Perry. Also had a 15-yard catch earlier in the series. And at this point, Finn has more yards passing in the first quarter than the entire game against Wisconsin. And I'm like, here we go. But nonetheless, we get the ball back. We move it again. We're moving mostly in the passing game. Mostly to the big 3. We have that short rotation, that Tom Thibodeau rotation going on in the passing game. We get a second sack. So that kind of pushes us back. We settle for a field goal. We go up 10-7. Miami gets the ball back. Finn, 14-yard pass to Perry, 39-yard Finn run, and it's like, all right, this is no joke anymore. This is not fun, no pun intended. Finn, I think, completes a pass to the 2-yard line, but there's a holding penalty. We accept it. This is happening to us again against an alleged bad offense like UCLA last year. They came in our building and ran us off the field. And that's what's going through my mind. But Bo Masco steps in front of a pass, has a big return to the Miami 12-yard line, and that was one of the turning points of the game. And in my preview in the last video talked about, getting a turnover. Miami had a big turnover interception against Wisconsin. Our defense didn't really make plays in the first game, and this is something that they emphasized in camp, is getting more turnovers, making plays. So we wanted to see some of that, some Schiano ball, and it hadn't. But Bo Masco comes up with the big play. Ethan then rushes for 7 yards, Antoine for 3 more, and then Antoine, 2-yard touchdown. We're up 17-7, okay, but we've been here before. Let's see what we got. Can we push on that throttle a little bit? Ethan starts this game 10 for 11 and 100 yards. There's no 55% completion percentage QB here. He's finally fulfilling his potential, and maybe it's about the receivers. We have the talent. They're in their second, third years. And it's finally coming together. Coach Schiano likes to talk about, the defense not being good, but they have to complete the reps over and over again, a volume of reps that gets you better. And maybe that's part of what the offense is going through now. That's my perception about his comment. Not even perception. The coach pretty much had said that in his post-game press conference. So we hold Miami on the ensuing possession, and okay, we're making a stop, thankfully. Miami punts it. We almost block it. We almost get a Schiano play. Penalty flag, illegal procedure. It was a good high kick, but nonetheless, we get possession of the ball again. And at this point of the game, Finn actually was outgaining Rutgers 151 to 134. It's the same pattern where the mobile quarterback, who's not necessarily a polished NFL prototypical quarterback, is causing you problems, along with whoever the number one receiver and the running back is. We get the ball up 17-7, 8th and 2-yard rush, first down pass to KJ, swing pass, wide receiver screen to DT for 5. Ethan has a 5-yard rush for a first down. CJ gets 3 yards. The holes really aren't there in the running game early, and that early on, I saw that as kind of problematic, because even though the passing game is fun and it's productive and we're doing well, we need to balance that with Rutgers kind of football and, Big 12 kind of offense, or a modern college football offense where you're going to pass it for over 200 and run it for almost 200. Ethan underthrows DT on and out. We needed to extend the lead at that point. And in this series, Dante Chin hobbles off the field, and we'll get more of that later. We get 10 yards to DT on a first down. 15-yard pass to Ian. Finally, a good run. CJ for 18 yards. and then he gets a 1 yard touchdown, but then it's called back for offensive line holding. And you can see that we were starting to make, some mistakes. Offensive line, was getting, there was pressure on Ethan early. This mistake made you think that, the offensive line is struggling a little bit. A couple of sacks already. Nonetheless, on the ensuing play, Ethan throws a touchdown pass to KJ Duff. An interference penalty is declined. We're up 24-7. We're feeling pretty good, but it's deja vu all over again as we went through this with Ohio. We kick off to the 25. We get pressure on Finn, and that happened a few times. And you know what happens when we pressure the quarterback? We don't get the tackle. They make the escape and create an off-schedule play. He rolls out a 17-yard comeback sideline pass. Finn rushes for 13 more. The defense is a sieve at this point, and I'm like, yeah, this is not good. This is Miami. There was a deflected pass, and then, Finn gets rushed on the next play. But he escapes. He gets 5 yards. He evades another rush, missed tackles, rushes down to our 27. And there's another 6-yard run to the 21-yard line. And you're thinking, okay, Miami over Ohio, doesn't matter. This defense is just not good. They miss a pass to the end zone. It's third down. They get the stop. It's fourth down. Kick a field goal. 24-10 at this point. I have no confidence in defense. It's feeling like the previous week all over again. Welcome to the Big 12. At halftime, total yards. Rutgers 214. Miami 211. So much for the terrible offense. Finn responsible for 206 of those 211 yards. We go into the second half. I'd like to see us, we get the ball, I'd like to see us go down the field, don't play around, step on the accelerator, put it away, and not have to worry about if Miami can play catch-up ball. Conventional wisdom is they can't play that way. No third quarter BS. No running down the clock, slowing down the pace of the game, reestablishing the run, going into your prevent offense. Go for the kill, and then play some effing defense for once. We start the third quarter just like Ohio. Run the ball. Try to get cute with, short passes to the tight end. We stop being aggressive. Although, we did come out looking for that short safety pass, and Fletcher did have a drop. So it's not necessarily on the game planning and Kirk Shiraka. Fletcher drops it. Jay-Sean gets 6 yards. Ethan scrambles for 5 yards. Jay-Sean gets a yard. We need to extend the drive. And then incomplete pass to Colin Weber. So we start the third quarter off, having the punt, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is not good. Punt goes to the 16. Lo and behold, I'm like laughing and crying at the same time. 69-yard pass, wide open, down the middle to Kevin Reynolds. Terrible. And this was like the first yardage, at least, that I saw where this wasn't a breakdown in the play where Finn had a scramble, make it an off-schedule play. Just went back in the pocket, stood tall in the pocket, threw it downfield. Reynolds wide open. Here comes the momentum swing. Then there's an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on top of it. So now We're down at the 8-yard line. Finn runs it in for a touchdown. Defensive holding. Just an absolutely, positively horrendous series. Miami did what we had to and should have done. It's now 24-17. And you're thinking, not again. Here we go. So Miami kicks the ball off. We're at the 35. Offense must do something. Finally, Kenny Fletcher and the tight end gets a pass for 11 yards. Incomplete pass after that. Good pressure all day long against Ethan. So Ethan was scrambling a little bit, but there were also some designed runs. He wound up with like 12 rushes for 18 yards, but that includes the sack yardage. Ethan gets a 1-yard rush. He gets DT for 10 yards. Nice little floating screen pass to Antoine for like 9 yards. I like that kind of thing where you're getting the ball out to the running back because that can break the back of a defense. And then on that series, Dante Chin, hurt again, hobbles off, leaves the field on a cart, and we just have terrible offensive line injury karma. At the beginning of during the summer, we felt good. We can sustain an injury or two. But now it's looking like our depth has some issues, and this has me worried a little bit. We can't seem to avoid this, but I'll be honest, with Tyler Needham in there, our offense seemed less hesitant. They were a little more dynamic with Tyler Needham in there. Nonetheless, we get back to play. Antoine, no gain. Antoine gets a pass reception for 4 yards. Ian splits the defense, 17-yard pass. All right, so maybe there's no second for a touchdown. Maybe there's no second half fade going on here. Miami's first play, when they get the ball back, and they must see something in the coverage in the defense, because again, on the first play, deep down the middle, overthrown a pass, they see something with our safeties, as probably we all do. Should have been intercepted. The defender couldn't really see the number, spun around, stumbling, weren't positioned correctly, didn't high point the ball correctly, dancing around trying to locate it. Should have been an interception, but wasn't. Our ball locating skills sometimes leaves much to be desired. Although the play overall was a little bit better in the secondary, that's a pretty low ball. There's still big gaps in coverage. Nonetheless, after that play, it's 3rd and 7, and we get a lucky pass interference call and an unsportsmanlike conduct against Miami after they get a big game again. Guy open. Finn makes the play. But like Ohio in the 4th quarter, getting that defensive holding on our last drive, allowing us to extend it, this was fortuitous. Now, after the game, Chuck Martin said, "Well, we didn't touch we didn't touch anybody." Yeah, but I'm sorry, what goes around comes around, because I think on our second or third possession of the second half, we attempted the same thing. Ethan rips a ball deep, first play of the series, blatant interference. And to me, it was interference or holding, and it was a non-call. I was shocked that it wasn't called. Nonetheless, it's 3rd and 28. I don't want any sort of schoolyard plays made here where Finn hits a back out of the backfield or hits somebody open downfield for a first down. Nonetheless, they complete a pass. It's 4th and 19. Let's go. Let's put this away. I think it was on this next series actually that the refs missed the interference call. Ethan loses 2 yard, 15-yard completion to the sideline. Pass interference on that play declined at the 50. CJ gets 6 yards, another 5 yards. We're starting to play like Rutgers wants to play, running the ball. Ethan throws a little outside line pattern, which was probably Ian Strong. I don't remember who it was. Interference on Miami. Miami's starting to compound their mistakes throughout the second half. So any sort of momentum shift seems to be abated for now. We weren't necessarily fluid. We had DT open on and out. We just missed them. Antoine gets 6 yards. Nice tight end screen to Fletcher. It's 4th and 1, and this was another focal point of the game that people are talking about. 4th and 1, sitting in the stands. It's not even 1 yard. It's maybe 2 feet, length of a football. All you have to do is fall down. So we run that delay, RPO, delayed handoff, 5 yards deep in the backfield, and it's stuffed. A long developing play on 4th and a foot or two with a play that takes way too long to develop. So this is the play where the controversy is with Greg Schiano being really steamed over the play because apparently he didn't want to call the play before the quarter ended. And it sounds like he felt he was assured that he didn't have to snap the ball and that the quarter should have ended, but it didn't. And hence this ridiculously choppy, ill-conceived play, which was a coaching mistake. I don't know if there was a second left on the clock or not, but that play call under any circumstance would have never worked. All you had to do was fall down. The play was reviewed. It was upheld, but, it's another brain lock call. And we had, whether it was Virginia Tech a couple of years ago between do we kick the field goal, do we punt, or the field goal against Illinois last year, a deep newsflash, a deep RPO handoff on 4th and a foot and a half. Yeah, don't do that. Okay, what's going to happen now? Is Miami going to get the ball and take advantage of a momentum shift? Finn has an incompletion, another incompletion. You're thinking, okay, we got something here. Hits Reynolds for 13 yards, who had a big game. We need to hold here. And we do. Eventually turnover on downs. We get the ball. We move the ball downfield. Ian Strong and KJ ending in a 5-yard touchdown. So this wasn't a game where we were going to be sweating it out like we did against Washington, like we kind of did against Ohio a little bit. We get another turnover on downs near midfield with a sack late in the game. We actually get 2 sacks, but at a time that wasn't critical, but it was nice to get them. And we got a sack by Jabome and Jabril Abdul-Rahman. We do what we prefer to do in a perfect world. If it wasn't a modern world, we start to run the ball down Miami's throat, highlighted by Antoine's 35-yard on 3rd down and 1, I believe. And Antoine closes out scoring with a 4-yard run, and the score ends at 45-17. So we come away with a win, and we finish strong. Like to see that. That's a positive. It wasn't a work of art, as it tends not to be with Rutgers, unless we're playing Howard or Wagner. And even then, sometimes it gets a little weird. So we got some positives, and we know what the positives are. And that starts with the offense and the triggerman, Ethan Kalakamanis, is turning into the guy that I thought he could and should be by looking how he goes about his business and how he delivers the ball. 26 of 37, 259 yards. And he had some drops too, more drops by DT, Fletcher, and Weber. Although the one Weber, he could have caught it. It wasn't a perfectly thrown ball. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. So Ethan is now 44 of 59 for 75%, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. That will change probably starting in a couple weeks against Iowa. But for now, it's good building up that momentum, that fluidity, that confidence, that aggressiveness. So by the time we hit that part of the schedule that gets a little difficult, we know how to do it. We know how to play that way. The 3 amigos all carried the burden again in the passing game. Ian Strong, many now lamenting, okay, he's gone. He's off to the NFL next year. Hold on. And Bill Parcells' famous quote, don't put him in the hole just yet after 2 games against the MAC. Nonetheless, 9 catches on 13 targets, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. He now has 16 catches, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns for the season. Coach, after the game, was asked about it, and he had some glowing things to say about him. But the thing that kind of surprised me is, said he's right in the process of developing. He's not there yet. And you're like, oh, damn. Like, where are we going with this? And he went on to say how Ian also recognizes that. I absolutely hope we get another year out of him where he dominates. I don't think he would be a high pick next year for 2026, but I think another year of production, and some people saying this receiving trio is the best since Kenny Britt, Tyquan, and Tim Brown, or maybe the best production by our number one since 2000 and was 2010, 2012, or was it maybe 2014 and 15 with Leonte Carew, where you'd be surprised. You kind of think of him as having more receptions than he did, but he had 55 catches, I think, in 14 and 39 and 15. Of course, he averaged like 19 plus per catch, so that was kind of a big deal. But these guys absolutely have the potential, from a production standpoint, to be the best we've probably seen at least the past 20 years or longer. Nonetheless, KJ had 6 receptions, 71 yards and a touchdown. DT had 5 receptions, 37 yards and a touchdown. Tight end room doubled production with Fletcher and Colin Weber each having 2 catches, each along with Antoine. On defense, there's not a lot to crow about. Jordan Walker did have 2 tackles for loss. I think he's sort of getting lost in the sauce as a guy that's does have some productivity going. So we hopefully that coach is right when he says the defense is just a matter of getting the reps together, doing it over and over and over to the point where you can get where like the offense is now. We'll see. Sometimes, guys just don't make a play. And then on that 69-yarder, coach said it was all on him 100%. I'm not sure about that. Rob Smith is supposed to be the play caller. So is coach like influencing the play calling, or is he just covering for his guys? So is the locker room doesn't come apart and there's undue pressure on them? I think both of those things could be part of it. Nonetheless, let's get to some team stats. Game should not have been a one touchdown game whatsoever in the third quarter. Considering this disparity, first downs, Rutgers wins that battle 31-13. Plays, we had 77, and Miami 44. We had more yards, 421-368. Wasn't 440 like Ohio, but we're giving up 400 yards a game. That has to get better. Passing yards, 259-251 with Finn. We outrushed Miami 162-117. I kind of like that balance. If you can get over 200 yards passing and close to 200 yards rushing. Third downs, we've improved dramatically. We were 7 for 10. Love to see that. A lot of that on the passing game. Happy about that. Miami only 3 for 8. Another part of the game, even though we had some issues regarding sloppy play, not related to turning the ball over or, just generally having mental mistakes, bad penalties. We had the unsportsmanlike. We only had 2 penalties for the game. Actually, 2 of them wound up costing us. And, we talked about that in the preview. Ohio is a higher penalized team than we are, so let's not give them any false hope. We had 2 penalties. They had 10. Time of possession, not even close. We had it for 39:06, and Miami 20:54. Finn and the wide receivers were the guys that had all the productivity for him. Finn was 14-22, 251 yards and an interception, but he made big plays pretty consistently. He rushed for 11 rushes, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Miami had 200-yard receivers in Keith Reynolds and Cam Perry. What happens, when we play Washington and Oregon? I can tell you, after Washington putting up 70 points, this is a game that's looking more and more like a game that is going to be a track meet, and it might be one that we don't win. Miami had 3 sacks. They were pressuring Ethan quite a bit, particularly early. That being said, we seem to get better from the middle of the third quarter on. Adam Trick, who Coach Matt talked about in the pregame press conference, was kind of quiet. 4 tackles, 4 solo tackles, one assisted. And also doing well, getting a shout out from Coach. Let's hear it for the kickers. Straight out of Ireland, Jack Scullion, 8 out of 8, kicking balls into the end zone and getting touchbacks starting at the 25. That's a good thing, how Coach likes conservative special teams play and not returning a ball if you don't have to, or kicking it out of bounds. Starting at the 25 is something that he's perfectly fine with. Needing help, needing improvement. We know what that is. Secondary, especially the safeties, we're losing him. Coach took responsibility for that big 69-yard play. I'm not certain. That's okay if he's providing coverage for his coaching staff and team. That's fine, as long as he's not covering up for things that they just don't know how, or just don't execute. At some point, somebody's going to have to execute. The secondary, these guys wide open, and when you're sitting, you sit in 124 and you see these guys, you know how the play is going to wind up, because there's nobody near these guys. missed tackles. Cam Miller actually made a nice play on the first 62-yard play where it looked like Reynolds or whoever it was sprinting for the end zone. Cam Miller sprinted down to prevent the touchdown. Nonetheless, Jet Elad, Kaj Sanders, talented guys. They have to start playing better. And Jet Elad, we expected a lot from him. We know from his lawsuit that he's getting paid. He has to perform better. And despite coach saying on that big play, it's 100% on him. Guys got to make plays. So let's get to it. We applied pressure at times, but again, we couldn't finish it off. Finn kind of had his way and wasn't sacked until late in the fourth quarter. Almost doesn't count. And any quarterback, off-schedule plays, design quarterback runs, they kill us. Ironically, when a team runs a traditional set, they run between the tackles, want to sit back in the pocket and throw on-schedule play. We seem to do okay, especially on the early downs. But we have Damon Williams at Washington coming up. We got Malik Washington on Maryland coming up. And these are two athletic guys, playmaking guys who are going to give us a problem. In addition to the tough games that we have coming up with more traditional quarterbacks. Though we weren't heavily penalized or turning the ball over, we need to lessen mistakes. The 1-yard touchdown run, called back because of holding, and then we had that unsportsmanlike conduct on another play that cost us. O-line kind of making mistakes, allowing pressure, and we don't want to see Ethan on the run too much because we know that he kind of puts himself out there, and we don't want to see too much of that. We allowed 3 sacks against the MAC team. Big Ten will be a problem. We got to tighten that up. We'll see how the offensive line rotation is going forward without Dante Chin. Hopefully, it's not real serious with him. We wish him well, wish him luck. Don't want to see offensive line depths. Again, this is something that I look at every year, and every year something seems to come up. We had coaching lapses, although not super critical. That 4th down play and that early third quarter, coming out of the half, kind of playing conservative thing, almost hurt us again. Don't overthink it. Don't get too cute. And don't get too conservative. That being said, we are what our record says we are. We are 2-0. We'll likely be 3-0 when Iowa comes to town, and I'm feeling better, not just because Iowa lost to Iowa State. Both of those teams are really good and on any given day can beat us. But Iowa, after, being a run-first defensive kind of team that plays offense like, watching paint dry, Mark Gronowski is not playing well. And if he's not playing well and he's not making plays, which kind of makes me worry because I don't want him like Finn to get better against us. I feel unlike the game, what was it, 2 years ago? Last year? 2 years ago. I was one of the ugliest games to watch. The offense, the offense on both sides was terrible, but ours was historically just horrendous. Gavin couldn't move the ball. We didn't do well whatsoever. So I feel better about our ability to at least make some plays and put Iowa in a position where they're going to have to make some plays. Iowa's that kind of team where, if they go up against a high-flying team, they fall behind. They have no chance. But Iowa State is also very good. This was a close game, so I don't expect that game will be an easy one. But I kind of like our chances more so than in the past. News and notes. We got before Iowa comes to town. We have the Michael Vick's and Norfolk State. They're 1-1. They had a win against Virginia State and a 27-7 loss to Towson. Sometimes Towson's pretty good. We'll do more of that on the preview. News and notes: Evan Simon has Temple at 2-0, and just a funny game. You never know what's going to happen. He's 27-35, 422 yards, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. It will end again this week as Temple plays Oklahoma, who just knocked off Michigan, which begs the question, is Michigan overrated? I think so. They have some high-profile recruits. There will be times where they look like a top 20 team, and other times they'll look like meh. It depends, which team you get more of. The team that has potential or the team that's meh. I think you're going to get a little of both this year. They might be a little better than last year, but I feel they're a little bit overrated. Nonetheless, Gavin Wimsatt, Jackson State beats Liberty, who sometimes is pretty good and is ranked 34-24. Classic Gavin stat line: 6 for 12 passing, 52 yards, no touchdowns. Rushed it for 10 rushes, 78 yards, and a touchdown. That's classic Gavin, but they got the W. On the other hand, Joe Harris-Simiak loses a heartbreaker to Bryant, 27-26, and they were up. I was, watching the scoreboard a little bit there. They were up most of that game. They give it up in the end. They need some help running the ball and sticking the ball in the end zone. The one that a lot of people are probably surprised at, but not Pat Lanny from Rutgers Rant, NewJersey.com. Ohio beats West Virginia. So, this could be a game where people are kind of saying, well, Rutgers can barely beat Ohio, but this might turn out to be a quality win. After Ohio beats West Virginia, who knows if there'll be Big Mac championship game again, but that bodes well for us. Rich Rod, people already complaining. And not only was it Pat Lanny, but, having watched one of the a few of the Ohio post-game pods, I think one of their guys said, you know what, we're going to beat West Virginia. And they do. And, some other notes. Purdue. This is not the 2024 Purdue. They're 2-0. Nico Lamaliava and UCLA, they're struggling at 0-2. Talk about Michigan being overrated. Army beats our Great Bowl opponent, Kansas State. Boy, you just never know how things are going to go. And Washington, watch out for them. I mean, was it UC Davis? They beat 70 to whatever. They're going to be a problem out in Washington. Illinois and Indiana continue to impress. We'll, go through the Big Ten happening some point this week. Hope to get to that. Let's finish up with Coach gave Eric LeGrand a shout out, but at the stadium at halftime, he was out on the field. It was the 15th annual Walk to Believe, and Eric mentioned at halftime, we like Eric LeGrand's bourbons in this house, about something coming October 1st. So I'm wondering if there's maybe an Eric LeGrand rye, cast strength rye, maybe some sort of barrel finished, barrel proof whiskey coming up. I'll be looking forward to it. And if I love it, I'll tell you guys about it. Everybody enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll see you the next time as we go through Michael Vick season. We'll see you in a couple days and have a great week, everybody.